Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming in to Let's Talk About It, Steph. I am your host, Stephanie, and I will be bringing on a few of my friends that will be talking about some of our biggest topics about vouchers and versus public schools in Texas, blue bonnet curriculums, and Bible teaching in our public schools. So, how have you all been feeling with all this crazy stuff that's going on around here, especially after the election? What are your thoughts? What's going on? But we'll get a chance to talk about all of this coming up. I have so much to talk about. So, we're going to talk about it. So, give us a minute and we will be right back with you. So, hello everyone. This is Steph, and I am back and I'm ready to get into these hot topics that we have going on. So, as I promised, I was going to bring one of my good friends on here. We have Ernest. He ran for U.S. Congress, and I'm so excited to have him on to talk about some of our hot topics that we have here. So, hello, Ernest. How are you doing?
Hi, Stephanie. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's your week going so far?
Well, it's just a regular work week, so not all bad. There's, you know, it's just kind of a pre-holiday work week with a lot of family stuff and regular work stuff. Things going okay for your week?
Yes, it's going pretty good. I can't even complain.
Well,
Can't
great.
even complain. Excited to get this week over. Can you believe that next week is going to be Christmas?
It's a thing. It really is.
Yeah, I was not prepared for it. So I'm like, okay, here we go. It's almost over. We're getting ready to hit 2025. You ready?
Well, at work, I do a lot of calculations and already got my calendar up through the end of February. And so it's, just 1 month after another.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to make it do what it do. We're going to enjoy and hopefully have a great 2025. Uh-oh. Okay, can you hear me?
Sounds like maybe we got a new guest or something.
Okay, that should be better.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Okay, we just waiting on the other folks to pop in there, but tell me about you and your campaign. How did it go?
Well, it kind of ended with a big surprise. It started out just as a we need to give people a choice, that we had no candidate for Congress in our district in the last election. And so when I learned there wasn't going to be this time, I jumped in. And at first, I didn't have a whole lot of hope of winning. It just wanted to give people a choice. But as things went on, a lot of people were talking very positively and say, yeah, I'm going to vote for you. And even at the poll greeting, saw a lot of that. But overall, I lost, came in second. And for every 4 votes I got, my opponent got 7. So it wasn't real close. And it didn't take long for them to total it up and and come out with the result. So that was kind of surprising for me, because I thought it would be much closer and maybe take longer to decide. But what I there's a few things that happen, and I think the biggest thing is we did not connect with the people enough. the people that I did connect with, I think I won over pretty well. But I think I was new to the whole game, and I don't think I got out there to enough people. And so I'm going to be spending the next year or so just being active in the community. I've already engaged some with CCA, the what is that, Christian Community Action or something like that, and I'm already engaging with Meals on Wheels and United Way, and just seeing, and we already went to one of the school board meetings, and just trying to be active in the community and stay alert and attentive to what's going on, and hopefully engage with more of the community while we're out doing that. I really think that a lot of our community got scammed. You know how people call you and trick you into giving up your wealth one way or another. And I think that's kind of what happened, and people gave up their vote without realizing that they weren't really voting for what was good for them or what's good for our community. It's just they got scammed by a strong sales pitch, and that's what we need to make sure doesn't happen this next time. So we're going to take the next year or so and just try to do more and connect with the community to where when my opponent says things like Democrats are the devil and they're selling baby parts and things like that, that more people in the community will know, well, that's not true, because I know who your opponent is, and I think he's looking out for what's best for our community. And that's the plan.
That sounds like you have an awesome plan, and I am so sorry that you lost your race. I know how it feels. You ran a very heartfelt race. You did all that you could do, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the campaign trail again.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, same with you. I mean, you and I are out there just side by side a lot of times making things happen. But it was
Yes,
kind of a national thing where it just wasn't super close for some reason.
yes. I was kind of utterly surprised a little bit of the results of what was going on federally. You know, we expected to have a better outcome than what we had, but it's just one of those things where, okay, where do we go from here? You know, it was a
Right.
hard race, but we went in there and did the best that we could do.
Well, I knew I was new to it, and I knew I had some ideas that I didn't have the money to do, and I had some ideas that we did as much as we could.
To help Johnson.
What
Go
was that?
ahead. Oh, that's Chris just clicked in. So we
Oh,
got
great.
Chris in here.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Chris, how are you?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Great, great. Ernest was telling me about his race and how he's going to come back and he's going to kick butt.
Hey, that's the way to go.
Right.
Yep. Hey, I think those 140,000 votes are out there.
That's right. That's right. Well, I got 100 and what was it? I forgot the number already. But
138,000.
It was something like 137 or 157, and it might just grow like a fish every time I tell it. But I think, and my opponent got 260, so the difference between us was maybe 120,000, something like that. So that's 60,000 more votes that I really need to get to switch. And if I can convince 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 people that they voted last time, which was good, but they probably didn't fully understand who and what they were voting for. They got tricked or scammed or something. And now's going to be their chance to do better for their community and even themselves.
Yeah, especially since he's like basically saying that police brutality he's down with. He was at a dinner saying that we need more Daniel Pennies.
Right. That's a lot of
Yeah,
vigilanteism. I,
yeah,
we need to support our police and make sure that they have the manpower to cover the areas that need covered, and that they have the training to where they know how to de-escalate and maintain the peace without a lot of force. And we need to do a lot to help our people to be safer. I think maybe that's part of the issue with guns, is a lot of people feel like, well, if I don't have a gun, I'm totally defenseless. And that shouldn't be the way we live in the modern world.
Oh, not at all. And Gil didn't make it any easier, with his comment.
Yes.
Giving
Yes.
license for people to take the law into their own hands against people they think are quote unquote a danger to the community.
No, it's really a very dangerous thing to espouse, because let's say you're a man with a gun, legally carrying it out on the street, and you see something bad going down, and so you pull your gun and run out to get involved. How are the police or anyone else who might
Absolutely.
choose to get involved to know that you're one of the good guys?
Right.
It's just very dangerous when we turn into everybody pulling guns and being suspicious of everyone else.
No doubt.
That is
Yeah.
so true. That is so true. Well, since we're jumping on to police, how do you all feel about what's getting ready to happen on the 20th with the immigrants allegedly supposed to be being kicked out of the country?
Oh man, that's horrific. I mean, we've had that in this country before. I mean, I think in the early 50s, over 1 million people that and a lot of them were American citizens that were deported back to Mexico. I mean, that would be a total disaster. And I'm hoping that local law enforcement will refuse to go along with that. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough how devastating that would be.
That would be. That would
It's just unbelievable. And I'm not sure why the news is saying it seems to have already started. I mean, I guess we've always had ICE, and it's always been a little bit of a thing, but they're having on the news where a man is a U.S. citizen, but maybe his wife wasn't.
Yeah, I read about that. Yeah, that happened in Houston.
And their wife and children got deported, and
Yeah,
apparently she was in the middle of battling some medical emergency or something, and she still got deported. And it's just very confusing to me what's going on and when. But I mean, I know that under the Obama administration, they had a very high number of deportations, and we have a serious issue with what all is going on with people crossing the border illegally, and more people coming into the country than we feel we have room to absorb. But it needs to be addressed with the right resources. And I'm hoping that Congress will pass that bill that they were going to pass 6-8 months ago, and get the money in to where we can have the stronger border presence. And then instead of doing catch and release, we can do catch and process much more quickly. And that way people will know if they have a right to stay in the country or if they don't. And rather than being here for a long time and starting a life under unknown circumstances.
well, the other thing is too. My understanding is that a lot of people, the border is a relatively small percentage of people that come to the country illegally. The bigger issue is people overstay their visas. Um, and give you an example, you've got 200,000 Irish people in New York City that are here illegally. They overstayed their visas. So, but no one's talking about deporting them. I mean, so again, I mean, it's a very cherry picked situation.
It is. It really is. And my thought is on here, it's going to hurt a lot of people. It's going to hurt the business, number one, because we have a lot of people here that have family members that may not be over here legally. And once they get deported, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt
Yeah.
our school system as well. Do they need to come over here the right way? Yes, they do. You definitely need to come in here the right way. But I think the wrong thing for our government to do is to round up these folks like that all of a sudden. I think that there's levels of how you should be able to do it and do it efficient enough, because what are they going to do? Are they going to put them all on an airplane and drop them somewhere? How are they going to do it? Are they working with the other countries to let them know, hey, this is the plan, this is what I'm going to do, your people are coming back? What's going to happen?
Not to mention the expense. I've heard on the news that it's going to cost billions to round up that many people.
88 billion.
and all of the disruption to the economy that we have. Let me do a little quick segue. I'm looking at a big thing that says, "Let's Talk Steph," and I see people's pictures in the background. How do I get rid of that?
I am in the middle of working on it right now.
Okay, well, we can skip that.
Yes, you guys keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay. Sorry. So definitely it's a bad thing. I mean, of course, there's people that maybe they break the law or something. They end up in being evil people, and we don't want them in our country. And I mean, there are probably the right people to deport under certain circumstances, but just to globally say we're just going to go down the street and scoop people up and take them out, I'm sure that appeals to some portion of some base somewhere, but I think it's going to be very disruptive to the American people. And very quickly, they're going to find out who's going to do the work that these people were doing, who's going to pay the taxes that those people were paying, who's going to, there's just going to be a big void in our economy. Don't we already have a lot of trouble finding people to fill jobs? Where was I just the other day when it's like, well, they're doing the best they can with the little staff they have? I mean, maybe almost any restaurant you go to or a lot of other places, we don't seem to be overcrowded with workers these days.
But that's a good point too, Ernest, because remember during the pandemic when everything opened back up and people actually all went to work? And I don't remember anyone not working, but we had an enormous shortage of labor. And that's when Trump had closed the border. And all of a sudden, we didn't have our service workers. And now people are complaining about how much things cost. Well, a lot of that is labor, and labor costs more when there's a shortage. And it's just sort of a triple up cost effect. Now, yes. I love the fact that we have people get paid more for their labor, but also at the same time, it shouldn't be because we're shortage of labor either. And there's got to be a good balance. And sending back half of our labor force in the service sector is probably not the right balance.
I agree. So where do we go from here?
On this topic or a different topic?
I'm like with this immigrant problem that we're getting ready to have. How I work with so many people that are immigrants, and they're concerned about what's taking place. They're afraid that, like, we're getting ready to go into our next topic about their kids being in school and they come home and they find one of the parents are gone, and that's the caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to go into the schools and go pick the kids up too? I really don't think they thought this through. I just really don't think they thought this all the way through, that they're going to wind up causing more harm than they.
So how would that work? We've got a social service system that's already overwhelmed with kids in foster care. How does that work when we send the parents back home, but we leave the kids here? Are we keeping track of them? Do we lose them?
Ask yourself this question. What happened to those kids on the last roundup?
We still don't
There's
know.
still over 1,000, I think 1,300 of them that are just they're currently orphans because they don't know who their parents are. They didn't even do a good job of keeping track. The Biden administration worked extremely hard to reconnect thousands of them, but there's still like 1,300 they could not figure out. I don't know if we can answer all the questions with what's going to happen. I know I'm excited. It's kind of funny, since we didn't do so well in the election. Part of me really wants them to just totally fail in government and have everything just go horribly wrong. So in 2 years we can say, see, you needed us and you need to make a big change. But on the other hand, I think there is a lot of opportunity for good things to happen. There are still good people in government. There's still people that don't feel the same way about everything, whether they're on which party. And I know, I guess the Trump administration that's coming on has done a lot to try to keep people in line and make people feel like you better line up or there's going to be big trouble. But I think there's people that still know what they want to do and they know what they think is right for their constituency, and they're going to try to do it. So I'm counting on it's when President Biden took over, it wasn't easy for him to totally turn the ship to the good all of a sudden. And it's going to be just as hard to turn the ship to the bad all of a sudden. So I think we're going to be okay, at least for a couple of years. And hopefully we can still convince people that they've been scammed and they need to improve who they have in government. And we'll just have to keep track of what they say and what they do. And didn't President Trump already back off on dropping the price of groceries?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Who does that help? That doesn't help my billionaire friends. I think that's too hard. We probably can't do that.
When it's like, oh, grocery prices are hard to manage. Of course they are. It's called economics. You need a class in that before you start teaching it.
You're not even going to go there by teaching him anything.
What was the other one? They're also trying to talk him out of doing tariffs now, because all of a sudden, all the CEOs of these companies realize, hey, tariffs are bad. And Trump's all, but we still need them. So I'm curious to see how many billionaires are now millionaires by this time in 2 years.
Well, the stock market is going up with certain people. I'm not going to mention their name because I don't want them to get credit on here, but their stock prices are going up. So it's a win-win for the billionaires that's going to be in office. Can you believe that we have billionaires that's going to be running the country, and the essential workers are going to be the ones that's going to be suffering? So I don't know. I think there's going to be some major changes that's going to wind up happening. A lot of things that he said he was going to do, he's not going to be able to do it. I really believe there's going to be a lot of resistance that's going to wind up happening.
Well, we've got billionaires in office who don't agree with each other. Some are anti-vax, some are for vax, some of them are anti-government regulation, some of them are for regulations. And I mean, it just depends on which side of it you look at. And it's not even the regulation we would normally think of, but sometimes what you would consider deregulation is more of a regulating, like oh, well, now I can't get the thing to come to my head. But anyways, JFK or Robert.
RFK Jr.
RFK, yeah.
RFK, thank you. RFK Jr. is the one that kind of comes to mind the most, and Elon Musk, that kind of clash on certain ends of the spectrum. But we're going to right now we're looking at the stock market. It's probably going to be a bull market for a while until it's not. And that's going to be a problem. And a lot of that's going to have to do with some of our tariffs and getting rid of our immigrants. It will, and then the fake market effect will happen, like we had a lot during Trump's administration. And then we'll start to see this big collapse. and people wonder where it came from. And the left side of the aisle was saying, but we saw this back in 2016. We just couldn't hold it off anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you remember, of course you do, the Biden-Trump debate where there was some fancy word for throwing a whole bunch of BS at somebody real fast to where they just don't even know what to say anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's what's going on with us nationally. It's like, how about this pick for this office and this pick for that office and this pick for this office, and all these, and none of them are like, yes, that's exactly who I would like to be doing that job for my country. None of them. They're all like, wait a minute, for the EPA, you want to put the biggest polluter in the nation for, and things like this. Tulsi Gabbard for, like, I don't know, some high office in intelligence, when she's like pro Putin and pro, other things. And I hated what happened the first Trump term. So many in the international community just felt empowered. If the US is no longer going to hold their power and try to keep everyone in line to do good, then why should I do good? And I'm going to go out and do just what's good for me. I mean, Israel is just doing a huge land grab, and now they're doing even more of it. They've been making settlements the whole time, taking over more and more Palestinian land, and they have plans for building roads and whatever all out through there. And there's other countries that are, why should we be the ones to maintain the, maybe it's the ones who sell the most to other countries that are going to end up realizing they need to do more to keep the peace and keep the established setup. I'm just not sure, but I know I feel bad when we abandon our post and it just doesn't go well internationally.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Speaking of internationally, we're going to put a pin on that, because that is something that we definitely going to have to talk about again. And I know it's going to be so many different topics that we're going to talk about. I tell you, with this new administration, I have plenty of material that we're going to be talking about for the next 4 years. So, make sure if you're on Let's Talk About It, Steph, that you subscribe and share. Subscribe, and like our videos. We're going to move on to the next topic that we've been all waiting to talk about, and that is vouchers versus public schools in Texas. I, for one, am, and I ran on that. I am so against vouchers for our public school, because it takes away from our children who have disability. It takes away from just the average kid that just parents cannot afford to send their children to private schools, because if they could afford it, they would have already sent them there. We have school choices here in the state, and we have this governor who just don't want to spend money and send it down to our schools that need help.
You know what? Here's the thing is, he doesn't even have to send money down to those who need help. All he has to do is listen to his school district, and they will tell him what they need. We've got, because I did a little research on this.
Okay.
LISD closed 5 schools, right? They were $4.5 million deficit, correct? But they gave $60 million in recapture, which means they gave it away. It goes to a general fund. It doesn't even go into the school Texas fund. And then we still had to close 5 schools. Here's the thing is, we could still do recapture. We can still help support schools that are less fortunate, ISDs who need the money, without closing our schools. So not only has Abbott, along with our legislators, set up a system that doesn't work, they've set up a system that makes sure all ISDs fail. And they have done this because they want to get vouchers through. I almost guarantee that the fact that we have not just, lacking in funding, but charter schools or were kind of like the beginning of how do we start to underfund or defund our schools by pulling as many children away out of those seats and putting them somewhere else by an or less than our public schools regulated school system that we still fund. It still comes out of our public funds for schools that goes to charter schools, but they're not as regulated as public schools. They don't have the same criteria and they do fail. So why are we not funding our schools, or why are we funding charter schools when we should be funding our own? If you've got a charter school that's failing, just don't fund it.
We're at that point where it's like, make it make sense, and everything that we say that makes sense, they are 100% against it. And the way how we change that, number one, when we have these midterm elections and general elections, people got to come out and vote for their own interests and quit voting against your own interests. That hurts. That just hurts, you know. I think that it should have been a deep dive last year or the year before on where the money that they do have, where is it going? Because that's a lot of money that you're getting. Where is all this money going to? You mentioned Lewisville, and one of the school board members has said, well, her husband made sure that they paid for the hotels when they went down there to Austin. And I'm like, I'm not familiar, but I'm wondering, don't they get a credit or something for going to Austin when they have for leisure? Where's this money?
I don't know.
You know,
one thing that's interesting to me is if you look at the last election, I was listening to the Democratic chair for Wisconsin, and he was saying that they won college educated people, highly educated people by like 19 points, and they lost far lesser educated people by like 8 points. And I think the Republicans know this, and they have a long-term plan to try to prevent the bulk of society from becoming higher educated.
I agree.
I haven't seen that plan. I can't swear that's the plan. I'm just saying it looks like they're putting barriers in place to more people getting just a standard, solid public education.
Well, so, I mean, that's a good point. And I agree with you on that, Ernest, because 2015, when I graduated with my master's, Abbott was supposed to he was supposed to be the main speaker. No one was going to walk. Everyone threw a fit. And so we had it on a separate day. So I guess all of the graduating class of 2015 could walk. It was kind of a mess. But anyways, Abbott actually had more protesters protesting him because he was wanting to cut our funding for our university. He was trying to make it more expensive and harder for people to go to a state school. I'm like, why? And now you're going to come speak at our college for when I graduate? No one wanted to see him.
Right.
But, and then, you know, we move fast forward 8-9 years later, and we got Coppell ISD, who's $7.5 million in arrears. They're looking at shutting down schools. But at the same time, they gave out $45 million in recapture. They had plenty of money for recapture. They also had plenty of money not to close down their schools. Plano was $24 million short in having to close down schools. Their recapture was $207 million. Still, again, they had plenty of money to help out other school systems while at the same time not having to shut down a single school. But Abbott and our Texas legislators have done nothing but figure out the perfect formula to make sure that we are not successful.
I don't think the plan is how can we turn this money into the best possible system for our families and our children. I think the plan that it's being executed at that level is how can we find more money to move into our pockets. And it just seems that's what they're doing is, you know, how can we get more money into different people's pockets that aren't the people that actually need it. And I'm not sure how, I mean, I guess that's long term, the Republican Party has been pro very large business and pro people, very, very wealthy people. And they get their votes by tricking people into thinking they're part of the club and they're part of the in crowd and they're going to benefit too. But it really never works out that way unless you're at the very top.
Mm-hmm. So,
Well, Dale, you ran.
Oh, go ahead.
I got Dale on here. Dale, you ran on school vouchers. Tell me, what are your thoughts on this? Dale, you're muted. You're muted. Okay, Dale, I'm gonna come back to you.
I'm going to ask you, Ernest or Stephanie, maybe one of y'all know this. There's expected to send $5 billion in recapture back to the states this year. It goes into the general fund. What happens with that once it goes into the general fund? How much, do we have any idea how much of that actually gets sent back to the states?
Well, it's what they used to call recapture. Well, Robin Hood, I think they called it. So I mean, we're in a pretty well-to-do area right here. So a lot of our money goes to the state, and it's supposed to get, all that money that the 2019 levels that they're still paying to the school per student enrolled or per student day or whatever it is.
Yeah, the basic allotment.
The basic allotment, it goes into the fund that basically pays that basic allotment.
But I don't think it does, because it goes into a general fund, not the school fund. It goes into a separate one. Yeah.
Okay, then
LISD did a good tutorial on that on their website, and it was a bit nauseating learning that the majority of the money that we're losing through recapture isn't being captured and redistributed for the purpose it was intended.
Interesting.
Which I think goes back to what you were saying, is it's going to somebody's pocketbook instead of back to our
it's probably going to the oil companies, prisons, private prisons. I mean, you name it.
Well, because if we don't fund our schools, we fund our prisons.
Yeah. Prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an interesting article today about the freeways, because not too many years ago, the state politicians did not want to raise taxes to pay for the roads we needed, the infrastructure that we have to support for things to grow. They were more than happy to keep bringing businesses in and having the population go up, but they didn't want to manage the infrastructure. And so they ended up getting some companies owned by someone overseas to build the roads for us. And so now every time we go on a toll road, we're paying somebody overseas for all that they did. I used to live in Virginia back when I was in the Navy, and I was there when they actually took the tolls off the roads. They said, these roads cost us this many millions. We have now collected this many millions. The roads are paid for, and now they are the people's roads. We're taking the tolls off of them, and you can just drive. And we'll never be able to do that in North Texas, because we're not paying for the roads. We've made a business agreement with somebody, and they're going to be taking their dividends forever, unless they do something. So these are just bad decisions. They sound good at the minute. Hey, we'll get this nice road, and we won't have to raise any taxes. Just like the education, it's like, hey, we can be the 45th state for funding education, and we can still call it good. And
but the 9th largest economy in the world,
right?
45th in education and 50 in mental health and physical health affordability, healthcare.
Crazy.
Wow.
Exactly. All right, Mr. Dale, we got you.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, sorry, I had to get my headset set up. I always, I don't know if this was brought up yet because I had to step away for 2 seconds, but whenever we talk about the school vouchers, I also like to remind people of two billionaires in West Texas named Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, and they are one of the large efforts behind the school voucher thing. They don't run for office themselves, but they have a near monopoly in the natural gas industry, and so they are the top donors for the Texas state GOP, and they very much want to privatize our public education system. So in Plano, for example, we were talking about how they shut down 4 public schools because the schools, the ISD needs the money, so they're going to sell those buildings. And I've seen this movie before. I think I know what's going to happen next. Some fat cat rich person is going to purchase those buildings, flip them into charter schools, and then launch a voucher program. So what we're seeing here is a privatization of our public education system. And that's because there are, just big donors out there who want control, and they want to control the curriculum. They want to be teaching your kids their values and what they want. And so to Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, having an election, like an elected school board who is elected by the people, is a threat to them because they want more control. So the more they privatize our public education system, that takes away from the public schooling system, which has an elected school board, and it puts more power into their hands. So that's something I try to bring up, that topic. Another thing I tend to bring up too is, Governor Greg Abbott, he has in the past couple of years been advertising the school voucher thing, and he would go to schools. He would actually go to schools and advertise it, but every time it was always the private schools. I don't think there's ever been, I'm not aware of any time Greg Abbott has gone to a public school and told people at that public school that the voucher system was going to help them. He toured this state and went to so many private schools and did it there. So this is not the will of the people. It's the will of Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks and other fat cat rich donors who want more control and want to indoctrinate your children with their ideologies.
Wow. So speaking of control, let's go move on to Blue Bonnet curriculums. How do y'all, let's not all speak at the same time, but how do y'all feel about that? Let's talk about
it. Just no.
No. Hell no.
No. Seriously, it says 25% of our state is Christian nationalist. Well, that means 25% of our state is teaching everybody exactly what they think they want them to learn, and leaving out 75% of the population.
I do have a question because I've been hearing different things from different people. They're advertising this Blue Bonnet curriculum, and they're going to say, hey, look, if you adopt this curriculum, which does teach Christianity to children starting in kindergarten, but the ISD is going to get a kickback of X number of dollars per student. What is that value? Is it 30 or is it 60?
It's 40 plus 20, so it's a total of 60. $40 just for saying you'll do it. $20 is supposedly for printing materials and stuff like that to cover the costs.
Okay, all right. I wanted to ask that because, for one, I wanted to clarify how much that was because I was hearing different things from different people. But for two, when I was running for office, and I know that when you guys were running for office too, almost all of us had the same platform, which is to increase the basic allotment. Some of us had different ideas upon how much we should increase that. I think generally speaking, most of us said at least by $1,000. But if this is a workaround to make up for not increasing the basic allotment, if they're only going to give you, I think, a 30 plus 20, that's a slap in the face. Like all of us who ran for office wanted to increase that basic allotment by at least $1,000. Exactly. Giving a mere like $30, $60 or whatever is just not enough. So
the basic allotment value is what now? How much?
I think it's around 6,000.
62, around 61, 6,200.
Yeah, so but the main problem is that static rate has not been adjusted since I think 2019. It's been a while, long before the pandemic.
So it is 2019.
1% of that is $62. And so if you figure inflation has been anywhere between, the target is about 3%, something like that. So if we just calculate on 3 from 2019, that's 5 years. So that would be like 15% you would want. So it's not quite 1,000, 15 times 62, but it's getting pretty close, I think. 1,000 would be round figure.
Inflation was higher since then, so I mean, it would be more than 1,000. I mean, I love the idea of 3% inflation.
Well, I'm just saying, if you were just going to give it a stair step value, and you're just going to pick one, but still, because that would be about close to the $1,000 number. And when they were talking in the last sessions, and they were saying, well, we're going to tie this to an increase in the allotment, the vouchers with an increase, they were only talking a $50 increase in the allotment. They don't let that be known very much. Like, well, we're going to try to cut your taxes, and they make these crazy formulas that you don't realize that the only people's taxes get cut are the billionaires.
That's right.
I mean, maybe they give us $200, and because we don't make that much money, that seems woo, $200. But we don't realize the billionaires are getting billions.
Paying next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they pay a whole lot less than we do in taxes. I mean, percentage wise, I worked for a guy. He made $5 million 1 year. He was very nice, and he was one of those that did the whole trickle down. Everybody did well, but I paid 25%. He paid 11%. Just saying, and I didn't make anywhere near $1 million, so I felt it was a little uneven.
Trickle down does work. You get a trickle.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I like I said, he was very generous to everybody who worked for him. But I promise you, he did appreciate not paying 25%. I would have appreciated paying not 25% too, or him paying 25% just to make it even.
Okay. Well, so we're going to move on to teaching the Bible in the schools. So teachers, they already have a lesson plan, and I don't know how you all feel about it, but I'm a PK.
Did we lose Stephanie?
Oh, we sure did.
Okay.
Briefly.
That'll teach you to talk about not teaching the Bible in school.
No. So far as having
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can now. So far as having like a lesson plan in school.
Hello.
Are you there?
We can hear you, Stephanie. And she might not be able to hear us.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
clearly, I mean, if you're going to, we have a lot of education that teaches kids kindness, that teaches kids like the golden rule, that teaches kids a lot of things without making it strictly religion based. And I mean, yes, we say in God we trust on our money. I don't think it used to always say that. I think it used to say e pluribus unum.
It did.
But so we've sort of crossed a few lines here and there, but we don't need to cross anymore. And we need to make sure that we treat people fairly and make people feel comfortable. And if people want to adopt our religion as Christians, they want to be Christians too. I mean, that'd be great. But if they're happy with their religion, that should be fine also. It's funny how many wars have been fought over religion when they almost all preach peace and getting along.
That's a great point.
Yeah, there are not many religions that preach kill everyone that doesn't believe with us. And yet we had the big Spanish Inquisition and all kinds of things that have happened in the name of Christianity.
Slavery
too. It's also that Christianity is very, very diverse. It has a lot of different sects within it. I mean, you put a Catholic and a Southern Baptist in the same room, and they're not going to agree on anything. So the large can of worms that we're opening right now is to say, all right, if we're going to teach the Bible in schools, which denomination, which version of the Bible? Because I tell you, I've heard stories in the past where in other schools where they did try to teach Christianity, and there was a lot of Christian parents who were angry at the teachers because they were all Christians. They all considered themselves Christians, but some of the parents did not appreciate what some of the things were being taught because some of those parents didn't agree specifically with that specific version of theology. So, I mean, I don't know if Mormons are considered Christian or not, but obviously Mormonism is very different from Catholicism, which is different from Protestants, etc. And another thing too, when we talk about the different versions of theology, one very concerning thing to me goes back to Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, because as they are the top donors of the Texas GOP, as they are the ones who are also trying to chip away at the separation of church and state, they believe in a theology called the Seven Mountain Mandate. They believe in a theology that the Seven Mountain Mandate stems off from New Apostolic Reformation, and that is a very twisted version of Christianity. New Apostolic Reformationists reject that the theology of a tribulation period, and they reject the theology of a rapture. And essentially, when you cut to the Seven Mountain Mandate, you basically have to take over the American government in order to trigger the second coming of Jesus Christ. The Seven Mountain Mandate is pretty out.
It's backwards. It's backwards because Jesus Christ is going to come on his own time, so he can't force him to.
Yeah, but again, I mean, Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, these guys who are the top donors of the Texas GOP, they're preachers. They have their very wealthy churches, and they preach this theology on Sundays. They preach the Seven Mountain Mandate. So when we chip away the separation of church and state, I get very concerned upon which theology is going to be taught.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the Tim Dunn and you said Ferris Wilks theology.
Yeah.
And they do have verses, Bible verses that they are teaching from in that Blue Bonnet curriculum. It's not just referencing the Bible. They're reading the verses and then applying it to that lesson, like we were in religion. Yeah, exactly. And I know it's been reworked, and I haven't been able to find the exact new versions of it, but some of it I was reading was in kindergarten, teaching art class, reading verses out of Genesis, explaining how the sun rose and light and dark. Like, you could walk outside in the morning during class and talk about it. You've got an example of light and day every day.
Right.
Yeah. And on top of that, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dale.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, I forgot to bring this up earlier. It's another talking point is that, I'm a Christian and I go to church, and I would think that a lot of people in my church would be very mad that their children go to Sunday, our church once a week on Sundays, right? But if you're going to turn school teachers into pastors, well, that means your kid is going to receive whatever theology, whatever denomination, 5 days a week. But then when you bring your kid to church, your pastor only gets to have 1 day a week on Sunday with your kid. I think that a lot of Christian parents should be very concerned about that. And then that kind of, again, ties into which denomination is going to be specifically taught. But sorry, Chris, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to basically say the same thing you said. I mean, it's just a very diluted version of whose Christianity is it. And a lot of it's going to be inaccurate, especially from a historical perspective too.
Guys, when we go and we speak to the city council and the school board, can you bring some of your leaders from your church with us to the cities or the ISD that they represent, or even their members of their church would represent?
I can try. It's going to be difficult because not everyone understands what Blue Bonnet is. Like my wife is a little more leaning right of center than myself, and I guess I didn't explain what Blue Bonnet was, but I basically said, the SBOE, the State Board of Education is pushing a curriculum that would teach Christianity in schools, and my wife's immediate reaction was, well, what's wrong with that? So I think. And of course, we're explaining why there's a can of worms, like they said, which denomination gets officialized by the government. The fact that our Constitution specifically says that you can't choose any one religion over another. So it's technically not even constitutional, depending upon how you go about this in writing. But, most people don't know that. So I can try to bring them up, but
I think more people understand it than you think. If you guys talk to them and just let them know, they're reading Bible verses in class, but it may not be your Bible. There's how many different Bibles do we even have? Jehovah's Witnesses have one. Mormons use, I think, the King James, but they have two of their own. The Catholics have what they consider the original.
Well, there's really just one Bible the Jews
Oh.
used the Old Testament, and
No,
the
Jehovah's Witnesses
Protestants
definitely have their own.
had the New Testament. There's a lot of different versions,
Mhm.
translations.
Yeah.
Some are very modern, and but I think pretty much the Bible is the Bible. With it all takes interpretation. None of the stories are just so totally clear cut that you get every facet of it the first time you read it and clearly understand it. So teaching Christianity in schools is a very difficult thing. I think it's far better to teach people to be kind and considerate and to share and those type of values rather than teaching one religion over another. And I'm not certain how deep the Blue Bonnet curriculum goes into this. Do they just happen to share a few stories, as like reading material, like in their reading, like let's read this story out of the Bible just to learn to read? Or are they actually trying to teach some of the Christian concepts in that story? I really don't know.
What I read was actual teaching Christian concepts and using that as the basis for the curriculum. Now, it's not every piece of curriculum, but where they can work it in, they have worked it in. And the thing, it doesn't really matter how far it goes right now, because this is like a pilot program. I feel like it's a pilot program to get Christianity into our lesson plans. It's a pilot program to say, hey, we can give you money. You don't like what we're doing, but you need the money because we're not giving it to you anyway. So here's now another initiative that we're going to do. And it may be more toward religion. It could be something else that we haven't even thought of yet, but it's the bribing of cash to take on initiatives or lesson plans that people don't want is a scary thought to me.
Yeah, and also, by the way, I think we almost got ourselves wrapped up in semantics there. I mean, well, I think there are some kind of different versions, air quotes, of the Bible, such as, the Mormon Bible versus more mainstream stuff. But, there are different denominations, and this is something that is completely unavoidable because, come on, this Blue Bonnet thing starts in kindergarten. Yeah. What is the reading level of the Bible? You cannot expect a kindergartner to honestly pick up the Bible themselves and actually read it and understand it. That's literally impossible. A kindergartner's brain cannot understand that. An adult has to be in the room in order to translate that and make that make sense to the kindergartner. And that puts a lot of power in the teacher. So how is the teacher going to translate scripture and educate their kindergartners? And are the parents going to be okay with that? Are the parents going to agree with what that teacher is teaching? Not to mention, I don't even know if all these teachers are Christians. Some of them might have no idea because some of them might be atheists or Buddhists or Jewish. So,
those are all very good points. Yeah.
But yeah, Stephanie back.
Is she back?
Oh, I thought she was, but
yeah. But yeah, and I think that's really what goes to the heart of it. We were at the Little Elm ISD meeting earlier this week. Jenny and I went, and a lady of the Jewish faith stood up and was talking about how, first she started off Happy Hanukkah and, happy multiple different holidays that are going on during this time period. And then she said Merry Christmas at the end. And she wanted to let the council understand how it feels to be left out. And when I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, this is kind of a weird direction to go because obviously, I fall more into the Christian category, but it all made sense. When she got done, I thought, this is kind of the point we're trying to make is your children are going to feel left out. Parents may not agree with being taught. It goes against the Texas Constitution, the Code of Ethics, the Texas Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and they all have that church of separation of state for a reason in education, because you're there to learn. You're not there to be indoctrinated. Religion is very personal. It is for the family, and it's for your faith leader. It is not for the school to educate you unless you choose to go to a school that does so, that should be your choice. So in the name of giving us choice through vouchers, they are now taking away our choices through Blue Bonnet.
Yeah, it certainly opens up a can of worms. Stephanie, I don't know if you're back, but I would
I'm
ask
back.
I'm sure you also have opinions on the Blue Bonnet. We were recently talking about how, there's many different denominations of Christianity and how difficult it might be for our teachers to teach which one is the air quote correct denomination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question because as a PK and a Christian, I'm a real Christian, so I believe in God. There are a lot of people that do not believe in God or they don't believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that church and school should be mixed together. I think it should be separated, just like I feel like church and government should not be together,
Absolutely.
you know, because I
Absolutely.
feel like as a Christian, if I had a child that was in school and I know that my child's teacher is an atheist, I don't want, and nothing against anybody's religion, but I'm just speaking from the heart and it's my opinion. I would not want that atheist to be teaching my child versus I would not want somebody that's in a different religion to be teaching my child, and especially at that very impressionable age from kindergarten to fifth grade. That's when they just learning and trying to fill out who am I, what are I saying, what do I believe in. They're figuring things out because most people don't get baptized until they're like 10 or 12 years old because a lot of the parents was like, well, that's too early if you 5 and 6 years old to get baptized. So I feel like they need to keep it separate, and I wouldn't want this new Christianity people to be teaching my kid because I don't know what you're teaching. Because first of all, you want to take Ruth out of there. Why would you want to take Ruth out? Ruth was a major player in the Bible in the Old Testament. So why would you not want to teach about her? Why would you not want to teach about Mary? Why would you want to take that out? That
So
goes with them not wanting women. They don't want kids to know that there were strong women in the Bible, and there were. Mary was the first disciple that Jesus had ordained to go out there and spread the words. He told her, go spread the words to the others. So she went to Paul and told Paul and John and what Jesus had said. So she was the first. So there has always been a woman that has been the backbone of men, and you cannot discount us. And like I said before, I believe that church and school should not be mixed together because somebody's going to mess up and confuse that child worse than what they already are.
I know when you listen to our opposing party, one of the things that they talk about quite a bit is parental choice or parental control or parental rights. And like when there's something, like the vouchers, they're trying to say, we're trying to let parents be in charge and parents have control. But yet if they implement this Blue Bonnet curriculum, how many parents are they taking control away from? That's,
I guarantee 75% of them at least.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
they talk real big when it points the direction they want, but they don't tend to think about, when it's the opposite.
Oh yeah, Abbott did like a whole Hail Mary. Oh yes, we got this through. He was excited. I mean, heck, he even slid somebody into seat District 13 in November just to get this through. And then in January, we have a new school board member coming in. So hopefully we can get the school districts to ask the state school board to revamp that curriculum, to remove the Bible verses out of it and put a secular lesson plan in to replace it. One that's more inclusive, that doesn't, include religion, doesn't make children feel like they're left out, follows the Constitution. But
Hey, Georgiana,
it should be like an elective. It should be an elective, and one of those. The parents should be able to say, "Yes, I want my child to learn. It's okay." I think the parents need to have choices. But I'm gonna tell you, a lot of Christians, real Christians, are not gonna want nothing against our teachers. I think they do an excellent job, but I feel like that's putting a lot more pressure on them. And a lot of our ministers, rabbis, they're gonna say they don't want those students to be taught at school the religion.
I don't think the teachers want to teach religion at school.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I don't think that teachers should be the comparison with pastors. A pastor spends, a lot of them their entire lives studying this material. Right. A school teacher, well, they haven't really spent probably the same amount of time as a pastor has, at least I assume. Maybe not all of them, but there's a lot of teachers out there who, if we turn them all into pastors, that could almost be a threat to pastors who only get that one Sunday to talk to the children, versus the school teachers who have 5 days a week. Another thing I'm going to throw out there just real quick, just a quick PSA, something I learned, a little bit of a mistake I made. When we were at the Lewisville ISD board, I brought up the Blue Bonnet thing. And then I felt a little bit silly afterward because I voted on something called Blue Bonnet. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I must have missed that was on the agenda. There is actually a school called Blue Bonnet Elementary School. And apparently the word Blue Bonnet is used in quite a few other things. So if we say the word Blue Bonnet out of context, it can be.
Okay. It's actually a slang name for a flower known in Texas.
Yes.
They probably thought we were all on something.
Well, it was such an emotional day because they were closing down the schools. And I believe that the Blue Bonnet School District was being redistricted. The map was being redrawn. So it did have they were voting on the Blue Bonnet that day for the redrawing of the map.
Yes. Dale, they did send me information on that. It was like, oh, we have a school called Blue Bonnet. So I knew ahead of time before I got up there to speak. So sorry I didn't pass it on to you, but I already knew what it was. But at the end of the day, I think that we're going to wrap it up. They need to do a better job in getting the message out. We need to do a better job in getting the message out if we want the turnout that we want. And I think we're on the right track of history by continuing on getting the message out and spreading it. And with this channel here, with Let's Talk About Stuff, that's one of the things that we're going to be doing is continue on spreading the message. We went live for over an hour, so I'm quite sure there's going to be somebody out there that's been listening, and they're going to want to know, okay, what are they talking about? So we're going to keep this up, and I'm going to continue inviting y'all to get on whatever topics that we have here, because it's a needed thing. Just because we lost the race, we didn't lose the battle. We got to continue on fighting.
That's right.
We got to keep fighting. And come January, I know I'm supposed to go down to Austin to go out there and speak up for us people out there. I'm going out there. And if y'all want to come out there with me, let me know. We got to continue on getting the message across and keep working for the people. And Ernest, keep doing what you're doing. Dale, keep doing what you're doing, because somebody sees us, they're going to hear us, they're going to know. And especially if this massive group of people do the things that they say that they're going to do, I want them to do what they say that they're going to do. So when it tanks, the people will actually know that maybe I shouldn't have voted for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't understand anything until you burn your hand on that stove, because your mama done told you don't touch the
That's
stove
right.
because it's hot. And when
How
you
many
touch it,
people?
ow, why you didn't tell me? I told you, you didn't listen.
How many people in that room for LISD had voted for Abbott and the Republicans that closed our schools? Probably half of them.
Yeah, and they got what they voted for. I mean,
They got what they and I hate
yeah,
that too.
yeah. I mean, they told them exactly what they were going to do. They were like, "Okay, we're good with that." And now they're finding out.
They'll sit there and argue with you on Facebook. This is okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a population is decreasing. Guys, you want vouchers to go to a private school so you have a smaller teacher to student ratio. Well, you've got it. Just fund it. Fund this one, not that one. It costs the state less to fund our schools than it does to pass out a voucher.
It really does.
Yeah.
It does.
It really, and it's not like we don't have the money here. You know, one thing next week, what I want to talk about, because we're gonna continue on putting our foot on their necks and talk about the issues that we have here in Texas, and maybe somebody will listen. And when it's time for us to go out to go vote again, the people have the actual facts and not the fake news and fake stuff that they're getting. They're gonna know for sure when they go vote. So we're gonna educate them. But one thing I want to talk about is the affordable living, and also we're gonna continue on talking about the school, because it's happening not only up in North Texas, they're feeling the effect down there in South Texas as well. So we're going to continue on bringing this subject up. You know, we got to keep getting that message out there.
Yes. We need to see what's going on in West Texas. I remember where it was, but where's it they do all the Midland, Texas, right? Where they do all the drilling? They recaptured $129,000. We need to find out how many schools may or may not be closing down there if they are in that area, because a lot of those oil companies or oil workers may want to know that they just literally voted for their kids not to have a school. Unless they don't live there. They just work there. I don't know how that works. They may not care.
Well, you know, it might be one every per 10 acres of somebody at the next. I don't think it's very populated out there.
Right, and they still gave back $129,000 in recapture. Oh, I'm sorry, $129 million in recapture.
Oh, wow.
In Midland.
That sounds better.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It's been an hour. Horrible. My brain half is not working right now.
Well, we're definitely gonna find out more information on that, and that'll probably be added to our next topic for next week. You guys, I really appreciate y'all coming on to Let's Talk About It, Steph. We're gonna have to close this out because we are over our time a little bit, but I really appreciate each one of you. Chris, thank you for coming on. Dale, keep rocking it. And you know, Georgina, I just love you. Thank you for coming out. And Ernest, thank you for holding it down for me. Last, give me 2 minutes. Well, give me something to say for 2 minutes. Each one of y'all got a 2-minute platform.
Oh wow.
Go.
Ernest.
I'll go. And we just have a lot to do. Our community, our state, we've basically been scammed. Our nation as well. People have just been fooled. They clicked on the link in that email. They listened to the person on the phone call that came from somebody they didn't know. They ended up voting for people in office that they don't really know their heart. They don't really know their intentions. They don't really know what's going on, but they think they're part of the club and they think that they're doing the right thing. So we just need to continue to hold the light and continue to show what is going on to make sure people know that that's not what we're for and that's not what we do, that here's what we want to do for you, but we need your vote, we need your attention, we need your understanding, and it's going to be a lot of hard work for the next year or more.
All right. Great job.
Dale?
What's up?
Sure. So I'm a bit disheartened in seeing what happened this last election, but I tell you, things are going to get real bad real quick. I am hopeful that we'll have a blue wave in the midterms because, as they say, the pendulum swings both ways. We know that there is going to be an attempt to end the Department of Education. The Department of Education is also something that really funds our schools as well. So if you think things are bad now, they're about to get worse. But it's important that we continue to go up to our ISD boards, we introduce ourselves, and make sure that people know that there are politicians and candidates who do care about trying to make things better and to try to help them. So we just got to keep on pushing. We got to keep advocating. We got to make sure everyone knows who our candidates are. And we will see what happens. We have the municipal elections coming up in May. So there's a couple of our city council and our ISD board members, not all, but some are going to be up for re-election. So we're going to see what happens there. And then come the midterms, I'm very hopeful for a blue wave, and hopefully we can make some changes there.
Yeah. I'll kind of go with what Dale and Ernest said is really our only real recourse right now is to educate and to advocate for change that's necessary and that we need. And most people don't realize it on the other side, but we are not that far apart. There are a lot of things that we want together. I think some people voted Republican either out of habit or because they believed something that they were saying, or maybe they just think Democrats are bad. I don't know. But as the policies start to show that they don't work, they really are not going to be helping us, but they're more hurting us. We're here. We're there for, regardless of what side you're on, to fight at our local government, our local levels, whether it's school board, city council, going up to Austin, letting them know that we're not okay with what they're doing. We need to just make sure that people know that you don't have to be a Democrat to sit there and fight with us. We can come together as a group and say, no, we want our local happiness back. We want to make sure our schools are funded. We want to make sure that we're able to teach our kids the religion that our family believes in. And I'm sure we'll find other things that go past the main issues that we're talking about right now as the year and the next 2 years go by. But we need to be open enough to at least say, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle we fall on, let's work on this together.
All right, Mr. Chris.
Okay. I don't have I'm echoing what everybody else said, but one thing I want to drive home is let's focus on our base, or people that agree with us, but they just don't show up. I think if we do that, I think we'll be in good shape and continue to get the message out. And the more they see we're fighting, I think that'll be very encouraging.
I think you're right. That's a good point too.
Yeah, because let's face it. There's going to be people that voted the way they did. They're probably not going to vote for us anyway. And I can't understand why why they would think that. But I think the bigger play is getting people who agree with us and who see things the way we do, but for one reason or another, they just don't vote.
Yeah, we need to figure out how to get them out to vote.
Yeah.
You're right.
Y'all hear Bentley in the background. I think he's trying to tell me.
Bentley agrees.
Yeah, that was very well said.
Everything that we're saying. So I just want to wrap this on up and say thank y'all. And we definitely need to make sure that we continue on fighting this fight. And we can't hide our head in the sand. We got to keep on fighting and be on the right side of history, because our kids, that next generation, is counting on us to fight. We may have lost the race, but we have not lost that battle. And we're going to continue on fighting and keep standing up for the people, because we the people matter.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
So y'all make sure that y'all like and subscribe. Thank y'all for coming on, my special guest, and we will see y'all next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed week. And if I don't talk to you next week, I might do a quick one because it's Christmas time. So if y'all want to hop on, do a Merry Christmas special, let me know. We're gonna get out there and keep fighting for the people.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Hey, you're a big hand of Steph, I think, for putting this on. I think that's really good.
Yeah, love it. All right, thank you
Okay.
guys.
Thank
you for having us
y'all
on,
so
Steph.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all have a good night.
You too.